I made her pay for cheating. I sat and waited. I knew her well. After 14 years of married life, yes. Her need to control every situation would make her rush home, do damage control, overpower everything else. I lazily pondered the twist she would come up with. He had to throw her for a loop, get caught. She'd always been smart, scheming, planning, working every angle. I was the most straightforward. If I had something on my mind, it usually came out of my mouth. For better or worse, I tended to lean toward the immediate solution. She hated it. It annoyed her to no end when all her work and all her carefully thought-out plans went to waste. Don't get me wrong, I usually gave her what she wanted. Why? Because I'm a guy, and guys don't usually sweat much. If she wanted it, and if it didn't break us financially or hurt our relationship, she got it. It made her happy, and then she made me happy, and then we were both happy. It didn't take her long to realize that there was a line in my head that said, when you cross it, things could get really bad. I heard her describe it to her friend once when she didn't know I was around. I call it the magic moment. The moment when he gets so angry that nothing matters anymore. Not his friends, not his job, not me, nothing. When he reaches that point, he can care less about what people think or whose feelings are hurt. I'll give you an example. He worked at his old company for 10 years, got a promotion, good reviews, they loved him. Then the management changed. They brought in an expert. 2 weeks later, the expert made a suggestion, which they accepted. Everyone's job was reorganized. Bob really didn't care. He had been there so long he knew almost everything. Then came the blowback. The expert pointed out that employees were paid about 25% more than companies with related positions in the field, so they were being cut to achieve parity. He was told his share was just under $5,000 a year. He laughed at them. "Let me get this straight," he said. "You want to cut all of our pay because it will bring us down to the local average, right? What kind of effort do you expect us to make thereafter? The same amount or 25% less? One of the reasons this company is so successful is because it pays the best dollars for the best. You can't just come here, fill out an application, and start working." I had to go through 4 interviews, physical and psychological testing before I was hired. You have a very strict attendance policy and strict security rules. So, why would anyone go through that to get a job when you pay no more than the place down the street where you don't have to work nearly as hard and get the same paycheck? Eventually, you won't have parity. You'll have mediocrity. Your older workers will leave to get better jobs or easier working conditions. Production will suffer. Accidents will happen. Morale will drop. He paused to catch his breath. There were 4 people from the corporation and an efficiency expert at the meeting. All of them were bright red. "The decision stands," said one of the corporate goons. "It will take effect in 3 months." He smiled. "That's all right. That's more than enough time to find another job. Consider this my notice. The day the cuts take effect will be my last day." There was a general uproar. The plant manager assured the corporation that he wasn't quitting, he was just venting. Imagine their surprise when 3 months later, he walked out the door. They tried to get him to come back, yelling that they would inform all potential employers that he had left and quit his job. "Already found a job," he replied. 9 months later, most of the old employees were gone. Many had come to work at his new firm. They invited 2 corporate officers to try to convince him to come back by offering him a nice raise. He laughed, wished them luck, and left the restaurant. Once he made his decision, no one in the world could change it. While it might have seemed like a hasty decision at the time, he usually thought long and hard about it, and it made no difference about the financial cost at all, not to him. "I can live without money, but not without self-respect. I've heard that about 10 times. I mentally went back in time, trying to pinpoint exactly when she started to think it was acceptable to have sex with another man. She'd tried to get me to accept a lot of things over the years. Now she was going to Cancun for 2 weeks with her friends, a couple who were on the verge of divorce, and one who was married. She had prepared a pretty good presentation. It would be good to get a break from each other. It would make us stronger, blah, blah, blah. I told her the idea sucked. The thought of her in a foreign country, on a beach with lots of alcohol in the company of a group of women, each of whom I viewed as a fool looking for rockets, wasn't really a good idea. But it's your life, so do what you want. Just keep in mind the cost. Over the years, she had internalized that this was one of my key phrases. It meant I knew she was wrong, or it was a really bad idea, but I was tired of discussing it, and if she went any further, she'd have to deal with the consequences. Just one more thing. I want my rings. If you're going to extend to strangers, you're going to do it without them. She exploded and started arguing. I just sat there until she ran out of steam. While you were talking, I thought of something else. You won't have time to rent an apartment while you're on vacation, so do you want me to put your stuff in storage or take it to your parents' house? She sulked, yelled, refused to cancel the plans. 3 days before she was supposed to get on the plane, she came home to an empty house and got a note. I've thought it over and decided I don't want to live here. Now you can go with a clear conscience without fear of betraying anyone. Have a safe trip. Oh, and keep the rings. They have no value to me anymore. Her cheating friends talked her into forgetting me and leaving, but she spent 2 days trying to find me. I took some of my vacation and went fishing. I was lazily wondering if she had gotten on the plane when I made another cast, determined to get that big fish I missed last summer, when I heard the sound. I figured you would be here. Thanks for ruining a really good vacation for me. As you can see, I didn't go. Happy now? I felt my rod shake. Maybe Mr. Big decided to play a game. No, I'm not happy. It's hard to realize that if I were a little weaker, you'd go away and spend a great deal of time knowing I'm under your thumb. Why are you here? Trying to ruin my weekend? It's not going to work. You know why? Because you won't be here. Go home. Go somewhere else. Just get away from me. Since you won't go, I'll fire the PI and go to irreconcilable differences instead of adultery. It's so easy these days, we can do it in 4 months. Mr. Big appeared. He burst out of the water, dancing on his tail. He weighed 8 pounds, maybe 10. It was at that exact moment that it pounced on me, swearing like a sailor. I was thrown into the water and Mr. Big relaxed a little, spitting out the hook and slapping his tail and heading back into the depths. She screamed and laughed at the same time. The water was just below my waist, but damn cold for early April. I slowly stepped out. Now, how about you talk to me? I don't want a divorce. You better. That was all she had time to say before I pushed her into the lake. She slipped a little on the mud, flailing her arms around in an attempt to keep her balance before losing it and falling backwards. I noticed that she was very well dressed, and that there was nothing under that short skirt when she went down into the water. Now she didn't look really attractive, covered in mud and grass. I saw that she was completely without underwear. She started to climb out, gaining air in her chest to start screaming as I pushed her back in. As she rose to her feet again, I held up a hand. Listen, don't speak. If you open your mouth before I'm done, I swear I'll jump in and hold you underwater until you stop bubbling. Nod your head if you understand. She must have believed me because she nodded slowly. So, what should we talk about? We both know that if I had given in, you'd be having sex with someone else right now. Deny it all you want, we both know it's true. I hope that your cheating girlfriends will be supportive. You're gonna need friends. Maybe you will spend your time trying to steal men from each other. God knows they all ran after me, even knowing you and I were married. And now I'm leaving. Don't follow me, don't call me, don't resist me when the papers are served. As I was leaving, I heard her crying and calling my name. Not surprisingly, she was fighting the divorce, but I wondered why. She hired a really good lawyer who got to the case of one Edith Vine, a Judge Judy wannabe who was notorious for trying to keep people together, and we had to see a psychologist. I almost got a contempt order for talking out of my ass. This is just nonsense. Nonsense, Your Honor. I don't want to find out. I don't want to save the marriage. I just want out. She's been very cold to me. Mr. James, you don't have to like it, but you have to go, and I'd rather hear you participate. Do you understand? I was pissed off, so I actually said it. That fool was so full of anger that her eyes turned brown. I understand, Your Honor, but tell me, didn't you go to counseling with your recently departed husband? Did that help? I seem to remember the divorce going through anyway. Let me ask you a hypothetical question, ma'am. If I told you that you were a terrible judge with no clue about the human condition, and if you lost by running for re-election, would that make you angrier because I dared to say that, or because I was right? I've never seen someone go from pale to red and back again so quickly. She banged her gavel angrily. Take this man and charge him with contempt of court. My attorney and close friend jumped up in a flash. Hold on a second, Your Honor. You're going to hold a man in jail for asking a hypothetical question. Your opponent in the race will eat that up. Please, he didn't mean anything by it. He's right, Your Honor. It was just a question. I take it back. I just couldn't resist. Nevertheless, when you lose in November and become an ordinary citizen on the street like the rest of us, I'll be sure to find you and detail your abilities. Okay. I dodged the bullet of contempt, but she got back at me by upping the mandatory sessions from 6 to 12. The first 3 sessions were very unpleasant for both her and the therapist. I loved to read, and instead of responding with real words, I used quotes from books and poems. Shakespeare was a gold mine, and there were a lot of cheating douches in his work. They broke through my defenses on the 4th session. Maybe I was tired, maybe I wasn't as focused as I should have been. When she cried this time, I realized she really meant it. Other times, she did it too easily. This time, she couldn't stop. The therapist asked why I married her. Because I loved her. I knew what she was like. I watched her all through high school and most of college. She manipulated everyone around her to get what she wanted. That's why I never tried to date her. Eventually, she had to ask me out on a date. I went because I was curious. What would she want from me? I wasn't rich, I don't think I was that good-looking, and I wasn't into gambling. We were at a party thrown by one of her friends. Her boyfriend, the guy she broke up with, was there. She was trying to use me to prove that she could get anyone she wanted, so he better submit. It took me about 3 minutes to realize this. After that, I decided to have a little fun. I pretty much ignored her for the rest of the evening, dancing with her friends, flirting, a little groping, all where she could see me. She was furious. Eventually, she pulled me outside and asked me, "What are you doing?" "You're supposed to be with me. The one you came with, do you understand? Behave yourself." She was shaken by my laughter. "What do you think I'm doing? Apparently, I'm the scapegoat here for your boyfriend, who you forgot to tell me you're still dating. I figured since you lost the case, I'd humor you a little. You need to make some new friends. Loyalty must be missing from their vocabulary. I already have 3 numbers, and Sue pretty much told me that after I take you home tonight, I should come back for a little private after-party." Apparently, no one had ever talked to her like that before. She started crying. Until recently, I could never resist a crying woman. I told her I'd make a deal. She acts like tonight was my date and I her. We went back to the house and she clung to my arm all night. We ignored everyone else, dancing only with each other. After a while, we really relaxed and had a good time. I think she was really surprised when I left her at the door with only a little kiss. I had no intention of seeing her again, but she took me as a challenge. She slowly made her way into my heart. I told her right away that I wasn't into her games. We broke up a couple times before she got the message. Long story short, we got married. I had a mumps as a child. It was possible I could have fathered a child, but unlikely. When we found out, I asked her to marry me. She chewed me out. I wanted adoption, but she made one excuse after another until I realized it was too late. Now, looking back, that's a good thing. But, counselor? She slowly reverted to her old habits. Smugness, I suspect. They were little things, but as time went on, they became bigger and bigger. What she didn't realize was that I didn't care what kind of car she wanted or what style of furniture she wanted in the house. Those things don't matter to me in the slightest. If it made her happy, fine. But then she changed jobs, made new friends. She started wanting bachelorette parties at night. Again, I trusted her, so it didn't matter. She started coming home later and later, and one night she showed up at 2 o'clock with mussed hair, crumpled clothes, and smeared lipstick. It was the beginning of the end. She knew she had screwed up big time. She apologized, saying she was drunk, and it didn't go any further than kissing. I left her for 2 weeks. She begged, cried, swore she'd see a counselor. I weakened. I still loved that stupid fool. I still can't say why. Things got better. She realized she had control issues and really worked on them. She changed jobs again to get away from cheating women. Jumped from the frying pan into the fire, in my opinion. Slowly, very slowly, she got along with them. The bachelorette parties started up again. Then the Cancun story came up. I looked up the resort. It catered to singles and people with alternative lifestyles. I had no doubt that if she was one, she'd come back a cheater who'd broken her vows. And that burned up her entire vacation, ruining the plans we'd already made. I tried to talk to her, but she used platitudes and nonsense that came straight from the cheater's handbook. I reached my limit, gave her an ultimatum. Stay with me and try to work on our marriage. Go ahead and come back for the divorce ball. She refused to cancel, so I packed up and left before she did. She must have had a mental breakdown because she never got on the plane. By then, it was too late. I started the procedure. And here we are. Yes, she's sorry. Yes, she'll go to counseling. But is it enough? Has she learned anything? Can she change? My question is, do I want to be here long enough to see? In the end, I took her back, hoping for the best. Why? Because deep down I really did love her, but I made her pay. I held her in a tight grip and made her sign a post-wedding contract. Irreconcilable differences, and it was 50-50. Adultery and the guilty party walked away with the clothes on her back. It was killing her. She loved the house and all her toys, but she knew this was her only chance. We were good for a couple more years. Then she started changing her clothes. It was so gradual that I didn't notice at first. It was little things, but as she sped up, I realized it. I noticed her smug grin, especially when she thought I couldn't see her. I called the detectives. 2 weeks later, they gave me their findings. Unfortunately, I wasn't surprised. Peter Cummings, the little weasel she'd been working with. According to the report, he was nothing more than a gigolo looking for rich older women to subsidize his lifestyle. Handsome, I guess. I didn't like his eyes. He looked at her Mercedes convertible, the rings on her fingers, the perfect hair, and smelled money. He flattered her. She gave him little gifts. He must have been good in bed as many times as they dated. I never saw them together or asked to give a report to the lawyer I chose. She broke the camel's back with a straw. I waited until I knew they were together now and sent her a text. Emergency. Come home. Call. No messages. She called me back 3 minutes later, breathing heavily. What's wrong? It's not really an emergency, more of a courtesy visit. I'm divorcing you. Have Peter follow you. You can leave your car and he'll help you pack your clothes. Leave your jewelry on the dressing table, along with your house and car keys. There was dead silence for a few seconds until she came to her senses. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the post-wedding contract you signed. Remember? The document you signed to prove how baseless my disbelief in you was? I'm talking about you having sex with that slug for at least 3 months. I'm talking about you being in room 334 of the Seasons, naked except for a garter belt. What color is that, lavender or purple? Live resolution can be pretty murky at times. Here I should call you a cheater, but I can't because you're paying for it with your little gifts and loans. I could see her looking around wildly, trying to see the cameras. Stop looking, you'll never find them. And tell Peter that the leather strap he's wearing looks completely ridiculous on a man of his age and build. There's a site on the internet called Fun Farm that has stupid pictures. Tell him I posted it about 20 minutes ago. I just got famous. He doesn't need to thank me. I gotta go. The locksmith should be here any minute. Wait! I'll be right there. Please, I can explain everything. Curiosity took over, so I grabbed a glass of my favorite wine and began to wait. I heard her pull up, her heels tapping quickly on the walkway as she ran in. She looked around wildly until she saw me in the study. I had started the fireplace and found the fire soothing. She came slowly toward me, and I stood up. "Sit down," I commanded, pointing to the back of the chair I had placed across from the couch. She sighed to complain about my tone, but changed her mind and sat down. "Wine?" I said, pouring myself another. She nodded, prudently remaining silent. I poured a glass, handed it to her, and sat down again. "Give me a second to get comfortable. I love stories, but they tend to put me to sleep, so if I doze off, forgive me." She shuddered. A sharp reply was on her lips before reason intervened. "Honey, you know I love you, don't you?" She was quiet, waiting for my answer, and when I remained silent, she continued. "I'm so sorry. Peter was a mistake. But we're done." I told him that when I left. "I'm sorry. Maybe you'll do better with the next one." Her anger came out. "Really, Shane, you're no help here?" I laughed. "I'm sorry. I didn't know I was supposed to help. Help with what? Find another lover? There are a few guys in the office who might be interested, but most of them have pretty high standards. Maybe we could get your nude pictures back from Peter and I could show them the goods. I could do a review. You're pretty good when you want to be. Do you think that could work?" She went pale, wondering how much I actually knew. She was pretty stupid, in my opinion, letting her lover take nude glamour shots of her. "Please stop being mean to me. I'll tell you what. I'll do it if you just tell me why. Why, knowing you could lose everything, are you being so stupid?" "I don't know exactly why. Let me give you an example. Do you remember a pair of Nike sneakers I've had for years? They're past their prime. They're pretty worn out. But they stay on my feet so well that I can't bear the thought of giving them up. This is what my love for you is like. Tough, comfortable, and I will never leave you." When you see a pair of red 4-inch heels in a store window, you know they're not practical. They'll probably hurt your feet if you wear them too long. But you know you'll look and feel attractive in them for a while. These shoes were Peter, fun for a while, but I couldn't wear them every day. Do you understand, honey? It was just a fling, a little stagger in heels, knowing you could go home and wear something that made you feel good. Do you understand? I stood up. "I think I understand. Thank you for explaining it to me." I walked over to the hall closet and grabbed my jacket. She followed me. "What do you understand? You're not throwing me out tonight, are you?" "No. My lawyer says I can't make you leave until the papers are served, and even then I have to give you a reasonable amount of time to get your stuff. He suggested 2 weeks. So you'll probably be fine for 2.5, maybe 3 weeks. But you won't be able to sleep with me. I'll be a gentleman and move into the spare bedroom. I know how you like that customized shower you told me to install." Her jaw dropped. I continued. "I'll tell you what. If you don't make a fuss, I'll help you find a nice apartment, deposit the money, turn everything on, and pay your bills for 3 months. You make decent money, but you've never had to pay your bills, so I'll help you budget. You probably won't have anything left over for spa visits, expensive lunches, or shopping trips. But if you save money, you can afford an evening out every 2 weeks or so. I'll even find you a decent used car, but you'll be responsible for the insurance. Whether or not to take it is up to you, but either way, you'll be out." I reached into the hall closet and pulled out my favorite black fedora. It was vintage, straight out of the 60s. I had a great uncle who never left the house without a hat, and when he died, he left me all of his hats, 31, all in perfect condition and stored in their original boxes. They fit me perfectly. I got them at a time when they were just coming into fashion. I thought I looked good in them. So did many of the ladies in my office. My dear wife said I looked silly in them. I set the right angle and opened the door. She was still trying to comprehend my words. "We need to keep talking. Try to figure things out. It's 10 o'clock. Where are you going?" I took her hand off mine. "Shoe shopping. I think I'm going to look at something young and sporty, or maybe I'll find something in cool Italian leather. If I can afford it, I'll probably get both. Don't wait up for me." I laughed, pulling away, knowing she'd hit the speed dial button on my phone. It would ring. She should hear it clearly on the kitchen table. I ended up getting both in one package. She was leaving me in the dust in her 6-inch heels. 10 years younger, she was smart, sexy, straightforward, didn't play games. A goddess. I idolized the ground she walked on. She bought me hats for birthdays and anniversaries. Now I have over 50. Gwen tried to resist, but when her lawyer looked at the prenup, he urged her to accept my offer. I didn't want her Mercedes, so I sold it, took half the money, and bought her a 4-year-old little Chevy. She even thanked me as she got married a couple years later, and as far as I know, we don't run in the same circles anymore. They seem happy. I know she was in treatment for quite a while. Funny story. I actually went to court when my divorce was finalized, even though my attorney said it wasn't necessary. Bumped into the judge who handled my first attempt and ordered us to counseling. Now she was just a regular townie. She was there during her second divorce. I was almost accused of contempt because I couldn't stop laughing. The end! Subscribe to my channel! Thank you! The logic of destroying my husband's life. I sat at my desk, occasionally glancing at my watch and at the notes of the prepared speech in front of me. It was just a habit now. I knew the words I wanted to say by heart, and had been doing so for weeks. I knew that what I was about to do was a considerable risk, but I felt obliged to do it. I was sorry it had come to this, but the stubborn asshole I called a husband had brought the trouble on himself. What choice did I have? Would my husband like what I was up to? No. I knew he liked to always be in control, and I was going to take away all choice and bend him to my will. I leaned back in my chair, waiting for him to come home. He couldn't know about the ambush I'd prepared for him. I know what you're thinking. I wasn't going to sit him down and announce that I had a lover, and insist that he either go along with it, or I was going to kick his ass out and clean every last dollar out of him. Well, you're wrong. And I wasn't going to announce that I was divorcing him or demand a trial divorce so I could make love to others. Before you ask, no. I had no desire to knock him out only to tie him up and humiliate him by sleeping with his best friend. And don't insult his integrity by assuming I was there to announce that I found out about his affair, so I set out to get revenge. My husband, the most loving, sweet, but above all loyal man I've ever met. No, this was a different kind of ambush, a more literal one. I glanced over at my accomplice, Matt, 6'4", of muscle and tattoos, who was staring blankly at me from where he was idling in the bedroom doorway just outside the main entrance. Well, I didn't pick him because of his mental capacity. I glanced at the clock again. It was almost showtime. As if on cue, I heard Dave turning the keys in the front door lock. I nodded to Matt and watched him disappear into the shadows. I put on my best smile. Dave opened the door and, without looking in, closed it behind him. It wasn't until he turned again and took 2 steps in my direction that he looked up. His face immediately stretched. "Karen, what are you doing in my apartment?" At that moment, the aforementioned 6'4" muscle, man of gore, stood behind my husband and clamped a wet rag over Dave's mouth and nose. I sadly watched Dave struggle, truly alarmed at how long this was taking. In the movies, those who were drugged with chloroform immediately passed out. In reality, my husband was struggling and thrashing, and his eyes were spinning trying to see his attacker, but the huge biker knew his business. It must have been at least 2 agonizing minutes before Dave changed tactics. He seemed to relax for a moment, then lifted his right leg and stomped down. I think he intended to kick Matt in the leg, but was mistaken. Instead, his boot slid down the biker's shin. I cringed at the reflected pain as even I as big and stupid as me wrinkled my nose. Quick as a flash, Matt's plan was discarded. Letting go of Dave with one hand, he spun him around and slammed his fist under my husband's chin. Dave saw it coming but was too weak to defend himself. Finally, I watched as his eyes slowly rolled back and he collapsed in Matt's arms. Oh well, embarrassing, but the effect was the same. In well-rehearsed coordination, Matt and I lifted my lying husband and carried him to the master bedroom. 5 minutes and 4 ropes later, the job was done. I thanked Matt and paid him the last $200 I owed for the task. He pocketed it, then walked out the door, patting himself in his pocket to make sure he had the lockpicks. I sat on the edge of the bed and gazed lovingly into my husband's face, stroking his forehead. Why is he turning blue? It suddenly occurred to me that, unconscious and lying on his back, he had swallowed his tongue. I tried to open his mouth. I don't know why. I must have tried to grab his tongue. He didn't open more than a little bit. So I put my hand under his neck and lifted it a little. I could hear and feel the air rushing into his lungs. I slowly relaxed as the coloring returned to his face. Now all I had to do was wait for him to come out of his Matt-induced fainting spell. It took another good 10 minutes before his eyes started to blink. I just sat there and stroked his forehead. Finally, his eyes opened completely. After a few seconds, he tore upward, but the ropes pulled him back. He was shaking his head from side to side, looking at his entanglements. Finally, seeing that he was helpless, he stopped thrashing and just started yelling "help" as loud as he could. I had anticipated this, so I hit him as hard as I could to stun him a little, and then reached for my pre-prepared gag. I was hoping we could talk like civilized people. But if you're going to act unreasonable, we're going to have a one-sided conversation. As I finished tying the gag, I stopped and took another look at the face I had loved for 23 years. I took a deep breath and mentally visualized my notes. And now, darling, something was wrong again. It looked like he was unconscious. Come on, I didn't hit him that hard. His eyes rolled back and his body felt like it was vibrating. Thinking that my slap had triggered something, I just sat there watching this strange behavior. In a panic, I thought I could undo what I had done by hitting him again. I jumped up, settled on his chest, and brought my hand in to administer the medication. I'm sorry, darling. That wasn't what it was supposed to be. My body was suddenly flung to the side as someone kicked me to the floor. I looked up, and to my surprise, I saw another woman. She was a little taller than me and quite beautiful, with fiery red hair. She was much younger and clearly healthier, just like I was before my athletic body relaxed a bit. I found myself pinned to the floor in some sort of wrestling or fighting hold. The pressure around my throat allowed me to just breathe. I knew that just a little more would change everything, so I let my body go limp and just stared into her striking green eyes. Let me go, you fool. I need to talk to my husband. I'll let you up, but not to talk to my boyfriend. I want to see what's wrong with him. Try to interfere, and believe me, I will break both your arms. I've called the police, so go or stay. I don't care. Do you understand? The pressure continued until I nodded in agreement. She jumped up and looked at Dave. His condition remained the same. She quickly put her head on his chest and listened. I saw the color peel away from her beautiful face. Then she jumped up, grabbed the phone, and called an ambulance. As soon as she hung up, she grabbed a knife and cut Dave's restraints, yelling at me to help herd him to the floor. I started to panic. What's going on? I don't know. His heart is beating, but it's not beating right. I can't do CPR on the bed. What did you do to him? My friend knocked him out. But he had to. Dave just didn't want to pass out from the chloroform. The tall redhead went silent again, listening to Dave's chest. Why did you chloroform him? Is this your way of getting him back? That's a good plan. No. I know he'll never come back to me. Not after what I did to him. He's too proud for that. Further discussion was cut short when two police officers burst into the apartment. The redhead quickly told me what had happened, and one of the policemen quietly arrested me. As I was led to the door, anxiety, terror, but most of all frustration, just overwhelmed me. I just wanted to tell him why. He should have listened to me. He should forgive me. I was taken to the police station and put in a cell for a few hours. They offered to call a lawyer for me, but I knew I couldn't afford it. I spent almost all of my savings on divorce lawyers until I accepted that Dave was gone forever. I was still terrified. What if Dave is dead? Then I would never be able to explain why I did what I did, and I would never get his forgiveness. Finally, I was taken to an interrogation room. Two detectives sat me down and turned on a tape recorder. I didn't see anything wrong with agreeing to be recorded during the interview, but that was all I was going to do. To the first three questions, I simply replied, I refuse to answer this on the grounds that it would tend to incriminate me. Two of the detectives were discussing getting a lawyer for me when there was a knock on the door. The third detective poked his head through the door. The girl is here and wants to talk. With obvious distaste, the first two detectives left and the tall redhead entered the room and sat down across from me. My name is Wendy Dormer, by the way. Is Dave okay? He's going to live, no thanks to you. Your little chloroform trick gave him a cardiac arrhythmia. The doctors say he'll be fine until his heart rate gets above normal, and then he'll just pass out. They're going to let him rest for a while and then stop his heart and restart it. There's a 90% chance he'll go back to normal. Otherwise, it's a pacemaker for the rest of his life. Breathing a sigh of relief, I took the opportunity to look at her. She was statuesque, like a bimbo, with a body I would have been happy to have at her age. One look into her eyes told me that while she surpassed me in all physical aspects, I had an advantage over her intellectually. I wondered why she was here. She answered for me. Look, Karen, this has to stop. When are you going to finally realize in your stupid head that Dave doesn't care why you did something nasty to him? He just wants to get a divorce and move on with his life. But he has to listen to me. No, he doesn't. You want to tell him, but there's no law that says he has to listen. From what he told me, you two had a normal life until he came home and found you having sex with another man. He said he thinks you've given up on the marriage and he wants nothing more to do with you. But he should just listen to why I did what I did. I know it's over between us, but he has to forgive me. After he left, I tried calling him, but he wouldn't answer. It was the same with emails. They just disappeared into the ether and I never heard from him. I sent him an email and he just returned it unopened. I even tried writing a registered letter, but he refused to accept it. God, it's so frustrating. I tried harassing him at work, but he just plugged his ears and refused to listen and then called security. I tried to explain it to his mom, but she just called me a cheater and hung up on me. I even tried to get my mom and dad to intervene, but they said they wanted nothing more to do with me. It was painful, but not as much as when my own children refused to talk to me. My last attempt was to refuse to sign the divorce papers unless he sat down with me one-on-one. He just stopped the process. It's so frustrating. If I could just tell him why I did it, then we could all move on, and people would just start talking to me again. What people? Anyone. Yeah, I realize this is going to be uncomfortable. Let me tell you that Dave was disappointed that the kids made that decision. He tried to tell them that they shouldn't judge you, that the crime you committed was against him, not them. But they are adults now, and can form their own opinions. They are good kids. They and my two get along very well. When did you see them? Did you go to Sydney? No. They were here last week. They're on vacation. She missed the news that her own kids were in town, but hadn't come to visit. Look, Karen, if it will save Dave's life and keep you from doing this bullying thing again, I'll be happy to hear you out now. I promise I'll try to get Dave to listen to me. I seriously considered her offer. I stared at her innocent, slightly expressionless expression. I had nothing to lose, but everything to gain. The police had only circumstantial evidence, and only Dave was a direct witness. I knew I could count on his good nature and he wouldn't press charges against me. If that fool tried to make a statement, I would just deny it. In my business life, I had two dumb fools like her before breakfast every day. I decided to enlighten her on one of the minor excuses I had prepared. Okay. I hadn't been with guys when we got married, and I always thought I might have missed something. Yeah. Dave thought it might be something like that. But he said he married you at your insistence. He said he gently pressured you to give in. He even said he flagged it as a potential problem even back then. I agreed with him that it would be extremely unfair to use that as a reason when it was your choice then. Wendy's intervention caught me off guard. She was acting a little more forcefully than I had expected. It wasn't a surprise for her next statement. And don't try to tell me you were just getting even for Dave playing away or neglecting you. The kids told me that as a kid, he was always attentive to you and spent all his free time with you and them. Don't try to tell me he cheated on you first. I know him well enough to tell you that he is the most loyal, trustworthy, honest, and respectful man I have ever met. It would never occur to him to disrespect you. That is, until you threw him out. This woman was starting to piss me off with her naivete. I knew my voice was louder and shriller than I wanted it to be, but I didn't care. Well, that was the problem, wasn't it? Respect. I have a college degree. Dave never finished high school. I was climbing up the ladder after taking care of kids for 10 years, and no one said anything. Dave gets promoted to foreman, and everyone thinks he was elected president. I socialize with smart business professionals who drive BMWs and dress nicely. He hangs out with sweaty blue-collar guys who drive Fords. He eats what he likes and still looks hot, while I'm on a diet and still look like a chubby middle-aged housewife, even after a facelift and breast augmentation. Everybody loves Dave. Everybody respects Dave. Everyone wants to be with Dave. I hate it. I paused to try to lower my voice below the squeal I knew it had turned into. Even when I was promoted to band manager last year, all my parents could say was that with all the money they'd spent on my education, they'd expected nothing less. But that didn't stop them from raving about Dave's award. I make more in 3 weeks than Dave's award does in an entire year. It just wasn't fair. That year, I spent a fortune on hair, makeup, and a dress for my company's Christmas party. I show up, and all I have to say is, "Where's Dave? Do you have any idea what it's like to know that you are socially, financially, and intellectually superior to your husband, but your own parents seem to love him more than you? Do you?" Wendy shook her head. Karen thought she hated Wendy more than anything else in the world. The athletic girl at school who picked her boyfriends, the empty-headed types who swirled around her husband at parties and laughed at his crude jokes while she tried, but unsuccessfully, to impress people with her knowledge and intelligence. The ones that agreed with him whenever there was a controversial issue, even when her arguments were superior. Not just the women, but all the guys. The final humiliation was when, after one argument, Dave stood up to defend her from the crowd. The argument was about being a stay-at-home mommy. Dave immediately began extolling her virtues as a mother who selflessly sacrificed her early career to give her children what they needed: a loving, caring environment. His comments about how well she cared for her 2 children should have brought them closer together but had the opposite effect. She, the group manager, should be rescued by the foreman. Well, after a while, I really started to resent her. Every time I tried to prove that I was better, at least in some way, it backfired. Just made me look uncompetitive and, even worse, made people rally around Dave. Eventually, I decided there was only one way to get rid of Dave. I would have a lover. If I could keep the affair a secret from Dave, it would prove that I was better than him. Just for me. If I could find someone who was a better lover than him, who gave me more pleasure, then I could secretly humiliate him so he wouldn't find out. Well, that wasn't much of a problem, was it, Karen? Dave is so open and trusting that you could make love to a guy in bed next to him and he wouldn't notice. How long did it last? 3 guys in 6 months. Wow, Dave thought this one was the only one. Was it what you were hoping for? Not really. Sure, it was nice to get love from them and from Dave and successfully hide it, but the sex was awful. Because I was so inexperienced when I got married, I had no idea that Dave was bigger and better than most men. Guys didn't care about my pleasure. It was just bam, bam, thanks, Mom. I only went out with the first 2 a couple times. The third guy I worked with was the only one even remotely up to Dave's standards. So why didn't you dump him? Because if I did, Dave would win again. Huh? I felt like I had to keep going until I had better sex with someone than I had sex with Dave. Then I could retire knowing that I had better sex than Dave, and I could stop knowing what Dave would never do. I was teaching the third guy, John, everything I liked best. I could see that this logic just didn't fit in Wendy's head. Serves you right, you idiot. You should be focusing on your husband instead of making love to the entire soccer team. So what happened, Karen? What you're telling me right now doesn't fit with what Dave told me. He thought you wanted to get caught. That's why he came home at a normal time and found you having sex on the couch. Of course, I didn't want to get caught. I knew Dave would kick me out if he ever found out. I realized that John would never get me where I wanted to be. So I came up with another plan. Dave made love to me a couple times a few hours after I was with the other guys. It was a little hot, but still not what I wanted. I made the mistake of reading some humiliation stories online. There was one story about a woman who forced her lover to sleep with her and then forced her husband to make love to her after a while. This story hit a nerve with me. I knew it was what I was looking for. If I could pull this off, my obsession would go away. No matter how inferior I felt since then, I would remember Dave humiliating himself that day. So I took Monday off and invited John to come over in the afternoon. The plan was for him to give me at least 2 good lovemaking sessions just before Dave got home. I set my alarm for 4:45, knowing that Dave always gets home at 5:30 sharp. I was about to lie down on the couch and take him out to lunch when he walked in. It was just my luck that for the first time in years, he came home early without calling. I paused, realizing that in my anger and desperation, I had strayed wildly from my script. He didn't actually come home early, Karen. If you had gone to work that day, you would have realized that you and Dave had forgotten about the start of daylight saving time the day before. He got to work an hour late, but left at the usual time. He said he called and left a message on your cell phone. I really don't understand why you thought all this was necessary, Karen. I talked to Dave a lot about this while helping him heal, and not once did he ever let me know that he thought he was above you. In fact, he worshipped the ground you walked on. As for your parents, when I talked to them, I always got the impression that except for this one instance, they were very proud of you. Yeah, I know that now. I realize that most of it was in my head, but it seemed so real at the time. That's what I wanted to tell Dave from the beginning. But the stubborn asshole just wouldn't listen. So you came up with this little plan to get him to listen to you? How was it supposed to go down? Well, I found out where Dave lived and hired a friend to help me tie him up so he'd be forced to listen. I bought chloroform online and broke into Dave's apartment. When he got there, Ma, this guy was supposed to give him the chloroform and help me tie him up. It turned out badly, though. The chloroform didn't knock him out, and he started pouncing on the guy. My hired help had to knock him out with his fist. Then we tied him up, but just as he started to come to, he had a weird seizure. I slapped him to get his attention, and then you burst in. You're gonna keep your promise, aren't you, Wendy? Will you tell Dave why I did it? Before I answer that question, Karen, I just wanted to ask how you think your plan turned out. Well, Dave won again, didn't he? I've lost my job. All my friends and family have abandoned me, and even my own kids don't even talk to me when they're in town. Meanwhile, Dave is being victimized. My reputation is in shreds. I'm damaged goods. If I ever want a date, I'll have to leave town. Dave has women lining up in case I break up with him. No chance, Karen. I recognize gold when I see it. Now back to your question. I'm not going to tell Dave about your logic for ruining his life. Honestly, I didn't understand a word of it, and I can only see that it would hurt him even more. Maybe someday when he's stronger, I'll slowly feed him. Who knows? As I called her a treacherous fool, I noticed that she was rotating the index finger of her right hand, pointing it at the ceiling. The meaning of what she was saying became obvious when the door opened and two detectives entered the interrogation room. One of them walked right up to the tape recorder on the table, pressed stop, and pulled out both tapes. Well done, Sergeant Dormer. Unusual tactics, but a clear confession to breaking and entering, assault, conspiracy, and unlawful restraint. Let's see how Mr. Brown behaves after the operation, what other charges we can bring. Thank you, Rex. I know Dave's gonna hate this, but the only way he'll be able to relax after this is if that crazy cheater is safely behind bars. She turned around just before she got to the door. Karen, when you come out, please respect Dave's wish to never see you again. I was too stunned to even respond. Am I not smarter than everyone else after all? The end! Subscribe to my channel. Thank you.